some of the hormones that control our diet, leptin and ghrelin, are altered when you don't sleep well. The leptin lowers the appetite and ghrelin increases the appetite. When you don't sleep well, the ratios are reversed, and we have more ghrelin, and then you have more appetite. And then what happens? You gain more weight. And then when you gain more weight, you can have diseases like obstructive sleep apnea that can affect your sleep quality. So we are in a vicious cycle. So I think if you're planning, anybody who's planning to lose weight should also, take the goal upon themselves to learn how to sleep better, because only when you sleep better, you can sustain your weight loss and your exercise program.
Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more month than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident.
Good day, and welcome to Give a Heck. On today's show, I welcome Bijoy John. Bijoy is a board-certified physician and practicing sleep specialist currently in private practice with over 25 years of experience in pulmonary critical care and sleep medicine. Based in Nashville, Tennessee, he treats both children and adults with various sleep disorders. Bijoy is the founder and medical director of Sleep Wellness Clinics of America, offering in-person and online consultation, education, modern diagnostic modalities, home testing, and comprehensive treatment for a full spectrum of sleep disorders. Bijoy is also the founder of the Sleep Fix Academy, which offers online courses, podcasts, and other resources to improve sleep quality. Bijoy has been recognized and received many awards, such as he was recognized as one of the top 100 physicians in Nashville in 2022 and received the Top Sleep Specialist Award consecutively from 2015 to 2020 from Nashville Lifestyle Magazine, as voted by his peers and patients. I'd like to welcome you to the show, Bijoy. Thanks so much for agreeing to come on and share with us some of your life journey.
Thanks, Dwight. It's a pleasure to be on your show. And
I'm excited.
yes.
Yeah, I've had so many experiences with discussions with people about sleep, and I was blessed to have another sleep specialist on already. It's been over 2 years ago, and I always like to have more than one person on of any form of medical practice help, modalities, whatever it is, because everybody has a little bit of different take, and I feel that my audience deserves to have more information so that they can actually take action, maybe finally, instead of living the life of getting no sleep and living on that hamster wheel of life and quiet desperation and having health issues. And the lack of sleep is huge, obviously, being your specialty. I'm excited to dive into this conversation so that my clients, my listeners, and even myself can learn more so that we live a more purposeful life, which is my whole mantra, is helping people live life on purpose and not by accident. So, Bejoy, one of the things I focus on to help us, get to know you, know, like, and trust factor very quickly is a person's origin story from their earliest recollections all the way back to their, some people, they can remember things at 4 or 5 years of age that affected their life all the way up to where they are today, good and bad, right? It can be either or. So do me a favor, Bejoy, could you please tell me your origin story and what key things from your childhood to adulthood that led you to where you're at currently?
What a great question, Dwight. This is the first time I asked this on a podcast. So, I'm from originally from India, born in 1970. So our lives changed dramatically at 11 months of my age. We had a tragic rollover bus accident. The bus rolled. My mom was going for a teacher's interview. So, um, several people died. I'm the only child. Well, I was 11 months. I did not have any injury. So it changed the trajectory of our family and the people we have become. My mom was in the hospital for a year. I was raised by my grandfather. My sister was raised by my dad. My brother was raised by my dad's parents. So here we are. My mom always says we were like a nest, but the nest fell down on the ground and we were all scattered. Even today, we are in different parts of the world. So my mom was in the hospital for a long time, and there was a situation they had to cut her legs off. That decision had to be made because she had a massive burn. 11 people died in that accident. So there was one doctor who said no to this situation, right? And he said, we're going to do conservative management. And luckily, they didn't cut her legs off, and was fairly disabled, but she could walk. So that, and if fast forward, 20 years later, I become that person in many people's lives because I was the guy in the intensive care unit deciding which way, to go. But I never gave up because I wanted to be that doctor who changed that person's, direction, of course of life. So and then life happens, and I have four med specialties. I went to med school when I was 17 years, and I want to be the best in the world. Carl Lewis, one of those Olympic athletes, won four gold medals. So I want to do something with four. So I came to America in 1994 and specialized in four areas. Internal medicine, pulmonary, critical care, and sleep medicine. So I practiced intensive care pulmonary for 25 years, and in the year 2020 I decided I want to pursue my passion. So I have branched out and started my own clinic in sleep because from a very young age I found the power of sleep, as early as med school. Even before that, my mom was a huge fan of naps. She told us to nap, and now there's scientific data saying naps is the best thing you can do. And so in med school nobody slept, but I always felt that if I slept the night before, I did the exams better. And then my mom passed away 10 years ago. There was grief. I had to overcome that. I couldn't sleep. And then starting my own business and taking this journey, a lot of decisions, employees, people, bills. So, and then through this years of 25 years of practice, I found out the perfect way to sleep. And I can sleep through, I'm actually coming off massive jet lag from an European vacation. Most people will be sleepy now, but I found that. So I want to share this joy that I feel, the empowerment that I feel to be the best version of myself to the entire world. And then I decided to write this book on sleep and the superpower. We are in a hustle culture. Sleep is the world as Metis match. The hustle culture as a Metis match in sleep. Sleep is an art. I figured it out. I hustle all day, but then I'm able to find the way to sleep, and I want to share it. That's my passion. I go all over the world trying to spread the art of how to sleep.
Oh, that's fantastic. I like how you talked about the doctor that saved your mom's legs. He
Mhm.
wasn't willing to settle. He was willing to always think outside the box. I know a lot of physicians, and I'm not even going to, this isn't picking on physicians. I'd say any professional. It can be an accountant, it can be an engineer. 10 years in, 15 years in, their brain kind of slows down, or, and their drive and motivation for their profession. And they don't necessarily give the same great advice they used to give because they lose the ability to have satisfaction from their career. So you found a way to always lift yourself up and thrive off your career and continually to advance. So congratulations for that. So many people, again, I know physicians that have been physicians 30, 35 years, and they're just coasting. They're coasting into retirement. They're not necessarily driven. I know professionals in all aspects of life. Again, with my financial practice business, I have lots of clients that I've seen their energy levels decline. And I think a lot of it, though, when you talk to them, is sleep based and nutrition, obviously, because I know myself personally, I was just talking about it with my son yesterday, and it was in regards because I was prepping for this podcast yesterday morning. And I put a lot of effort into reading, and I get excited about that person coming on because my energy level needs to be high, just like the guest does. So to ensure the people listening and watching get the best value. And I said to him, I said, I ate this 2 days ago. I said I had to sit and think about it because he said, how did you sleep last night? We always ask each other, but it's not just that phony fake comment. It's like sincerity. You're like, how did you sleep? And I've taught my kids to think about, what did you eat? What did you do? Did you have alcohol? Did you have too much caffeine? Did you not cut yourself off and had caffeine after a certain time because your brain's still active and it can affect your sleep pattern? Just things that I've learned. Obviously, I'm not a specialist, but we do not take sleep serious enough. And I think it affects our longevity in our careers and where we go moving forward. Would that be a fair assessment?
Correct. So sleep problems don't hurt like a toothache, right? So Dwight, so people put it away. If you have a pain, you're going to address it. But sleep slowly erodes us from within. In about 10 years of poor sleep, just imagine this. If you compromise, we require about 7 to 8 hours sleep. And if you compromise 1 hour a night, in a week, you've almost lost the entire night of sleep. Just think about that. So society is walking with a sleep debt. So we are like most of us are in a brain fog, in zombies, irritable, in a bad mood, like you said, less productive. But once you discover the superpower, right, that we have within ourselves, it doesn't need a lot of effort. It just needs discipline, and you can be better version. You're ready, revved up, and be this great human being that God has intended us to be. So you are exactly right. One of the number one reason of burnout is poor sleep, and that compounds to mental health problems, and the mental health problems affect sleep. So it's a vicious cycle. So somewhere along the line, we have to prevent that. And here we are trying to educate people the power of sleep.
Oh yeah, I'm not an expert in it in any way, shape, or form, but when I'm passionate about stuff, I have conversations with anybody. And if sleep comes up, I talk about some of the things that I've learned from other professionals. And now I'll be able to add to that with the knowledge that I gained from you. Obviously, it'll be a small sliver of the knowledge that you have, but it gives me enough empowerment to talk with confidence that how it's changed my life. So I believe storytelling and being vulnerable about anything in with regards to sleep, nutrition, exercise. We need to be passionate about what we're talking about. And I know with me, sleep had a huge problem in my life. I went many years with lousy sleep and went to doctors, went to specialists, got tested, the amount of blood work I had done. And this is going to sound really strange, but in 2017, I was overweight. I was not getting proper sleep. And I had a friend to challenge me to try the keto diet. Well, what's the keto diet? Well, a lot of it's cutting out carbs, and you just have very basic net carbs in order to sustain yourself. You're obviously, as you probably know, it's a lot of protein, a lot of fats, very little carbs. Well, all of a sudden, Bejoy, within about 3 weeks, my night sweats went away. My nightmares that I was having went away. I started sleeping better. I started sleeping through the night and went to my doctor because he wanted to monitor me while I was on keto. Did all my blood work. He says your levels are all. He said your levels were all out of whack last physical you had 6 months ago. Everything's stable in your life. He said, what's changed except for you doing ketosis? I said, nothing, absolutely nothing. I says, and I don't sweat anymore at night. I don't have any bad sleeping patterns anymore. And since then, to fast forward to get to the gist of it for the listeners and yourself, I stopped following ketosis a couple of years ago. I still follow the principles of not eating bad carbs, but there's the odd time, just like anything, people are over and you eat too many carbs. Guess what? That night, I'm not sleeping properly. So for me, I'm not saying this is for everybody, but for me, my body does not handle processed carbs or any junk carbs well at all. And it reacts by me having night sweats, crappy dreams. I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but that's my gist of why proper sleep has become so passionate for me. I don't like feeling that way. Waking up in the morning like I've ran a marathon.
Yes. So, I mean, there's data out there. You're exactly right. Just having a high glycemic meal, even 4 hours prior to bedtime, will affect your quality of sleep, because of the change in the metabolism and the end product. But, you are exactly right. I was giving, it was actually my book signing. There was somebody just stood up and just said in tears, Dr. John, all through when I was a young boy, my dad was poor. So to make them feel rich, they fed ice cream every night. That was their indulgence. So all through his middle school, he never slept. And he was like, but he called all kinds of names. And then he said he read my book, and I say that, and he was wondering all his life what happened to me in middle school. Now knowing the two to two together, this gentleman was in tears saying, "I just put a two to two together," saying it was the high glycemic ice cream that affected his sleep at night. So you're exactly right. You can see when children are wired when they add a lot of sweets and the high glycemic carbonated drinks and the sweets and ice cream. So there's data out there, and
Well,
uh,
and what do most parents do? They give it to their kids in the evening, or they have
yes,
company over and they'll say,
yeah,
"Oh yeah, here, have a pop," and
yeah,
everybody around the table, all the adults are drinking carbonated, caffeinated beverage with alcohol, or maybe not without it, and nobody sleeps well, and they don't
correct.
want to admit it. Oh, I could drink a cup of coffee hour before I go to bed, or 20 minutes before I
No,
go to bed, and I sleep like a rock. I said, no, you don't. Your
no.
brain doesn't sleep like a rock. You're not
Mm-mm.
getting, I said, if you actually started tracking your sleep, like I track my sleep for years now with my Apple Watch, and I actually see, I can tell when I have a poor sleep. And then I look at my data and my watch tells me, yeah, you're right. You did. You slept like garbage.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like you mentioned, alcohol when you consume, it metabolizes into, a product called acetaldehyde, which is actually a irritant and wakes you up. See, that's where people who drink themselves, see, so people form bad habits. Alcohol anesthetizes the brain and kind of mimics sleep. It's not real sleep, but then these products end up in your body, and that's why you wake up, and that's a classic hangover. And also, alcohol is a diuretic. It makes you pee all night long, and then in the morning you have that buildup of that the product that I mentioned, and also you're dehydrated, and that's hangover. So having a lot of alcohol prior to bedtime, or the carbohydrate meal is not great prior to bedtime.
Yeah, just it makes so much sense. So it's things that I wish they would teach. Not that it would make too much difference in a lot of people's homes, but during their day when the kids are in school, especially middle school, high school, if they could learn more about nutrition in regards to that, so that they could take it home and maybe educate their parents that, here, kids, today's module or for the next section of our semester, we're going to teach you about sleep and the different things you can do to make it so that you sleep better, so that when you come to school in the morning, you're not falling asleep on your desk, right? So that you're actually feeling more alert, so you learn more. I think a lot of children in school that aren't able to learn, if you look at their environment, they have very poor quality nutrition. They have very poor quality of life at home. Not that it's intentional. That's what people were taught themselves, that learned behavior. And if we don't teach our children, what happens? The next generation. It's terrible. A lot of our diseases, as you know, being a doctor, are because of pattern behavior, learned behavior. They're not even genetic like a lot of people think they are.
Correct. Genetic is very few of the all the disease process, but it's more induced. It's we do it to ourselves, and we are, in a sleep deprived pandemic, I call it. So we put a lot of impetus in diet and weight, but sleep is the foundation on which these two has to be built. So if you learn also to sleep better, you'll have more energy to work out. You'll have more. You'll be a better eater, you make better choices. I'm sure, Dwight, some of the hormones that control our diet, leptin and ghrelin, are altered when you don't sleep well. The leptin lowers the appetite and ghrelin increases the appetite. When you don't sleep well, the ratios are reversed, and we have more ghrelin, and then you have more appetite. And then what happens? You gain more weight. And then when you gain more weight, you can have diseases like obstructive sleep apnea that can affect your sleep quality. So we are in a vicious cycle. So I think if you're planning, anybody who's planning to lose weight should also, take the goal upon themselves to learn how to sleep better, because only when you sleep better, you can sustain your weight loss and your exercise program.
Yeah, I agree. And I think sometimes you said earlier about sleep and about being disciplined with it. People listening and watching, anything in life has to be outside your comfort zone for success. In your comfort zone, you're going to do the same processes night in and night out. And you will say, oh, tomorrow I'll do this. But start using the words, and I coach people all the time, I'm going to make a promise to myself. And your life will completely change when you start making those little commitments, those little promises to yourself. Something as simple as, I'm going to get at least 7 hours of sleep a night. Maybe you need an aide. Maybe you need an assistant. I have my watch go off every night when it approaches my sleep, when I'm supposed to go to bed 30 minutes before. It's telling me it's time.
Yes.
You're right. It
Yeah.
starts my brain into a process so that I actually, uh, you know, I'm being prepared for it. It tracks my sleep patterns. I do wear my watch at night. I make sure I charge it in the evening, not at night. I want to know that I'm staying on track. I want to be honest with myself. Oh my goodness, I did this yesterday. I had coffee at 7 o'clock at night when I know I need 8 to 10 hours with my body chemistry not to have caffeine, or it's going to affect my sleep. Oh, I see that. My watch reminds me, and I think to myself, I broke the promise to myself that I wouldn't do that. I promised myself I wouldn't have caffeine after a certain time in the mid afternoon, and I broke that to myself. And here's the consequences. Oh, I get up in the morning, I make my bed. I don't leave my room without having my gratefulness and gratitude exercises and making my bed. Promises to myself. So people listening, watching, and maybe the doctor will agree or disagree. Sometimes the biggest things we have to do to ourselves is start saying, I promise myself. We promise everybody else all these things in life, and we commit and we fulfill them, but yet we don't fulfill to the most important person in our lives, and that's ourselves.
Yes, that's why the seven proven sleep strategies, I have an acronym for that. It's called the Sleep Now. So the first is the schedule or the discipline, right? SLEEPNOW. So the first, like you say, you have to be disciplined and you have to have a schedule to go to bed. Roughly, you have to, from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. is when you prioritize sleep, right? So that's when I get asked the question, why so early? Or why 10? See, a lot of good things happen early on the night. The restful sleep is more the non-REM stage 3 sleep, which is it's the deepest form of sleep, happens more in the early part of the night. And we get more REM sleep, the rapid eye movement, which is kind of like a restless sleep towards the morning. So that's why I tell people to have the schedule and have the plan to prioritize sleep. And it's an art. You have to have a sequence of things. I tell people it's like a 7 course meal. You can't go to your steak right away. You have to have your music. You have to have a little bit of wine and the hors d'oeuvres and the salad.
Conversation.
Yes, conversations, music. It has to have a process. In today's world, we want it to be an on and off switch, like everything else. We want instant answers, but sleep is an ancient art. It's a natural process. You can't hustle your way into sleep. So, if you time permits, I can go down all the acronyms.
Absolutely. Let's
Yeah.
go for it. Yes,
All
I
right.
appreciate that.
Yeah, the next one in the Sleep Now acronym is, the L in the acronym is low light, low noise, low temperature. Melatonin, our hormone that puts us to sleep, only gets secreted in darkness and lower temperature. So it's very important. That's why when we go on a tropical vacation, we don't sleep well because it's hot and melatonin does not secrete that much. and then the light is telling mela means darkness, right? And then the light from the all the devices, which I'm going to talk in a minute, tells it's still daytime. So that's the L in the acronym. Then E is the next in the acronym is no to electronics, right? So pairs with the comment that I made earlier, the light from our devices, especially in the bedroom where there's no ambient light, augments more light. It's not like when you use your cell phone in a living room where there's more ambient light, the intensity of your light from the phone is not that much compared in your bedroom where there's no light. And so it straight goes to the eye and to the retina and then tells the brain it's still daytime. And so I tell people like just what you did 30 minutes prior. I tell everybody to put your gadgets away. So that's one big thing. So the next E is exercise. No to exercise at least 4 hours prior to going to sleep. Because when you exercise, you are releasing cortisol, endorphins, and also you generate body heat. So remember, heat is not good for sleeping. And so if you have to exercise, I exercise in the mornings, but I tell people, time is a constraint. Then exercise at least, might be done around 6, maximum around 7. Don't get it closer to your bedtime, which I recommend 10 p.m. So next in the acronym is P, power of your mind. So you cannot power of your mind with all these other things that are influencing you, like your phone, you're revved up your mind. So I actually, just one other caveat, I actually leave my phone far away. I leave it in my bathroom so I don't go pick it up, in the middle of the night, even if I wake up. So that's a little caveat everybody can follow. I set an alarm for 6:30, 6, whatever it takes. So how do you power off your mind? You're giving your body a chance, you don't have the distraction of your phone. You're not exercising. Your body's a little bit calm. So I teach two techniques. One is called vivid imagination. I'm the guy who's pioneering this. So when you lay in bed, our tendency is to think about the bills or the homework or the projects, the reality. But I tell people when you lay in bed, I want you to be the master of the abstract. I think about the last TV show I watched and I become the producer of the show. I've been doing this myself for about 30, 35 years. So this really works. When in bed, I don't think about reality, right? And I'll teach you how to do that, not to bring it to bed in my next acronym. So, and then the second thing I teach is yoga nidra. We talk about a lot of yoga, but NIDRA, nidra means nothingness, right? So I tell people to lay down on your back, palms up, and start thinking about nothing. But then you can focus your mind, start thinking about your, head and your neck muscles, the chest muscles, and the leg muscles all the way down, just like a scan. This is part of cognitive behavioral therapy, which we use for insomnia. So I'm combining the ancient, philosophies and the new. I'm always a huge fan. The truth always lies in the middle. So coming from the East and living here in the West, I'm able to combine everything in my personal life, in my professional life, and I think that's where the secret of life is. So the ancient art is that. So that's P is done, powering off your mind. Then no to worries. So this is one of my popular techniques. So no to worries in bed. I tell people to take a dedicated time between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. to worry. So I do the same thing in my life. And at the end of 8 p.m., I am done. I write things down, which I cannot, and I actually sleep on it. Even my title of my book, Nobody Sleeping, came after a good night of sleep. The Sleep Now acronym came out of a good night's sleep. So the beautiful thing about sleep, it heals. It creates new thoughts. When you have a problem in your life, what do you say? Let's sleep on it. Nobody says let's exercise on it or let's eat on it.
So true, so true.
So that's no to worries. Make sure you worry, outside your bedroom, by you're done worrying by 8 p.m. That's I've been doing this for at least 5 years. So over the years, I've inculcated all the stuff that's good in my life, and then I'm sharing. So the last one is the easy part. It's called W, win by losing. See, we go win, win, win. That's what we are taught. But sleep, you can win, win, win. You can hustle. Keep it simple. Everything is simple, and just you have to lose yourself. It's the antidote of our hustle culture. So that's the sleep now acronym: schedule, low light, low noise, low temperature, no to electronics at least 30 minutes. No to exercise at least 4 hours. Power off your mind. No to worries and win by losing yourself. That's the 7 proven sleep strategies. I have simplified it. It's very practical. I don't prescribe medications because we have every chemical we need to go to sleep. It's within us. I put people in this program, the Sleep Now course, and everybody, I wean people off medications. I wean hundreds of people doing this. So this is my research, and I perfected the art after 25 years.
Well, it's your niche to help people. Um, the nicest thing I heard there just at the end was you get people off medications. I
Mhm.
look at I look at how many people are on medications for so many different things in their lives that if they changed what they did, the patterns of their life, they would not need those medications. And I've proven it with myself too. I've proven it with many, many people. But sometimes medications are the easy way out for people, right?
Yeah,
And they
that's a
try and
quick
they
fix.
yes, and they trust their professional, you know, implicitly, which they shouldn't. We should always get second advice, especially on something that is serious in our lives. Get another opinion, but somebody that if all they're ever doing, and this is for people listening or watching, if you have any professional, even if it's an eye doctor that's constantly trying to push things on you because you have problems with your eyes, drops, salves, pills, because I know ophthalmologists, optometrists, I know all forms of medical people. At the end of the day, a holistic approach to try to figure out what your monsters are in your life that are triggering a lot of this stuff is, maybe initially they want to put you on some meds because a medication in a lot of cases, wouldn't you agree, is just a band-aid, right? So
It's
if
a
it's a
temporary,
yeah, it's band-aid.
especially the
You should
sleep
be trying to
medication.
yeah, you should be trying to figure it out. Like I have people in my family that take sleep medication
Mm.
every single night. And it's because of trauma, and it's not necessarily nutrition or exercise based, it's because of trauma. So there is specific people that even with mental and emotional help through a psychologist or a psychiatrist that do need medication for certain things, but it's a very select in my life experience, very small portion of the population. I think we over our world, North America especially, over medicates people. Why? We go watch a TV show, and how many commercials do you see for medication? Right? Who's
It's
driving? Who's driving this bus? Go to a sports game. Who's driving this bus? It's alcohol, right? The list goes on. We have to start looking past ourselves and putting in that effort. You talked about no to worry, 6 to 8 p.m. I like that defined worry time because I coach people and have worked on it for more than 10 years of my life to not worry, to look at things and what's the difference between a concern and what's the difference between worry? And does worry actually give me what I need in my life, or is it actually robbing from my life? And I've taught my kids that. They're all adults now since they were little. When you worry, you're torturing yourself twice. You worry up to something not happening, or it does happen. Now you worry about how are you going to deal with it? What are the repercussions of it? So I love that. The only thing that I'm going to add now to my daily thing is putting that into a box at a specific time. I have 5 kids, five grandkids, and so obviously I hear a lot from them. And as a parent, I try not to worry about it until it becomes an issue where I need to, right? But it does creep into my mind. I'd be lying if I said it didn't. So I like that 6 to 8 p.m. um worry time. That is unique. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
And also the abstract thinking, it's really helpful, But you can't do everything by laying in bed. See, remember it's all the preparation. Your performance depends upon your preparations. As a coach, so you're giving your body a chance. You can't be revved up and full of heat laying in bed, your melatonin not going to secrete, right? So you don't have phone, you don't want the phone close to you. There's a notification and the light, and then you get into engagement in a conversation with somebody who didn't want to, like that. Well, you want to get that now, right? So you have to push all those back and keep it, simple. And so, I mean, these are simple things. Medications, see what happens with medications, it's called hypnotic dependence, insomnia. See, every medication that you put on your body is going to fight back, right? Just think about alcohol. You might be tipsy in one drink, about a month or so, you need two drinks and more drinks. So your body has tolerance. So any sleeping pill will develop tolerance. But then people say, "Ah, if I don't take this pill, I'm not going to sleep." That's because they are dependent. So you don't need it, because if you are dependent on a pill, you should consistently increase the dose. I know a lot of people who start at low dose, then consistently increase their dose to go to sleep, because you're becoming tolerant. Your body's going to fight, and then you create this new monster. And what is really concerning, Dwight, is people mix alcohol with sleeping pills, and then two plus two does not four. It becomes like compound. It's like eight. So when you have the additive effect, and then what happens the next day? These medications hang in your body for a long time. Then you're drowsy. You can have an accident. So that's the risk factor, or you can have a fall because you're dizzy if you wake up in the middle of the night or in the morning, break something. So you can see a sequence of events. But if you just do 2 or 3 weeks and have everything that I told to practice, and then you change your life.
Absolutely. I was doing some thought process about my own personal life, and I'd like your obviously your suggestions, opinions about it. A dark room. You talked about the fact of a sleep cycle being from 10 to 6, or the fact that if you have light coming off your phone, or it can be light off of. I had to actually have a charging stand beside my bed for my phone. My phone automatically for over a decade goes into do not disturb mode. No notifications come in
Yeah.
from, and they don't even come in once I wake up. They're not allowed to start coming on my phone till 10 a.m. in the morning. And people go, why is that? Because I say I need to get up. I have my reflection, my gratefulness, my gratitude. I don't need all the garbage of the world coming at me right away. Right.
Mhm.
I need to wake up at peace. I need to do specific things in my routine. And I've been doing that quite successfully. But one of the things, I used to live in a home that had rolled shutters. For those that don't know what they are, they're on the outside of your window. You pull a little like a cord, and they actually come down and they seal tight. There's no light coming into your room. I lived in a house like that for approximately 10 years. Moved into the place I am now for the last 17 years. Don't have those blackout shutters or blinds or whatever you want to call it. And I was thinking the last few days that how much damage am I doing to myself when at this time of the year it's starting to get light in my room at 4:30 a.m.,
Mm.
right? And I don't even though I'm still sleeping, that light's coming in. And is it affecting my last part of my sleep cycle by
Correct.
having any form of light in my room?
Yeah, so if you look at small children or babies, we are all creatures of light. The light controls our sleep. So the babies wake up at the crack of dawn because the light hits the room and then tells the little brain, say, wake up. So light in your condition, when it enters in the morning, it's going to affect that REM sleep, which we have more towards the morning. Yes.
Oh, okay. So is it better to use like blackout curtains? Maybe you can't answer this question, or should, because I've been pricing out what I'm going to get, or should I just use, because temporarily for the last about week now, I've been using like where you put it
Nightshades.
on. Yeah, the
Yeah.
nightshades. I don't like how it digs into my head. So I'm thinking that maybe it's better if I just darken my whole room, or is it better to have your room still light, but just your eyes covered so that when you do lift them up and your alarm's gone off, that your brain knows, hey, it's daytime.
Yeah, which becomes a matter of convenience. Either you can do the whole bedroom dark out shade. That's what I have. I have dark out shades and my bedroom is dark. But some people prefer eye masks, but then you have to, it can put pressure on your eyes and also your back of your head with the strap. So whichever is convenient, it becomes a convenience issue at that time.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So, and the reason I bring this up is about a week ago, had one of those days where I had some family over, right, adult kids here, and I had had some snacks in the evening, which I know better. But you get in, you're visiting, and you just get munching, and we're all sitting and talking. I don't drink sugar at night, right? At all. I stay away from it. I have for years. I don't have your normal sugar pops, iced teas, and stuff. I drink stuff that is sweetened with stevia if I do drink it. And at the end of the day, though, I had that opportunity to visit with some family, and I went to go to bed, and I was restless. And I woke up at 4:30 in the morning, and it's starting to get light out. And I thought, one of those travel kits when I was on business class, they gave me when I
Yeah,
traveled
kit.
last year, had some
Yeah.
nightshades in it.
Yes.
I'm gonna try them, and I knew where that package was. I didn't
Yeah.
use any of this stuff in it. I grabbed it out, put them on.
Yeah.
Within a few minutes, I was sound asleep until my alarm woke up, and I thought, next night I'm gonna try it again. So for the last 6, 7 nights, I've been using it. I put it on even before it's light. I just put it on when I go to bed, and I find I'm having a more restful experience.
Exactly. So
Right.
that's it. You're cutting out the light.
But again, what is life though? Trial and error and accepting
Yes,
the fact that we don't know it all.
correct.
That there's somebody like um like the doctor here that knows so much more than us, and why do we resist? Your years of experience, the whole reason we deal and with professionals or maybe read your book or utilize your courses and your processes is because you are giving your knowledge that took you years to get to perfect, to collapse our time frames so we can live a more purposeful life quicker, right? And I don't understand. I guess my epiphany what happened 30 years ago when I started on personal development and realized that my thinking maybe was a little stinking and I needed to change some of the things in
Yes,
my
yes,
life in order to get out of that rut, that mountaintop that I decided to camp on instead of continuing to climb up the rest of the mountain. And that's why I wrote my book too. So, one of the things I really like to know more about is your book. For me, my book was really cathartic. It really helped me have those aha moments, even things that were front and center in my mind that I knew about myself when I actually had to put it to print and then read it and deal with the editors going back and forth. It was very cathartic. It helped me heal. What was your process like writing your book?
so mine, like the knowledge with this within you, I wanted to put it out there because I have the joy through trial and error, and I perfected it. So I said, there is this thing that people need, within ourselves. I'm not trying to sell a product or this fancy stuff. So it was the hardest thing I ever done in my life is to write a book, because it's a medical book. If it was something, fictional, or, I can write it and be done with it. Here I have 230 plus references in my book. So everything I put has been verified multiple times. My me and my, we went back and forth, the team. The what happened was the team was so passionate. They were changing their lives and they felt called that they had to do their best job. And my proofreader, editor, they were actually losing sleep on it. They couldn't sleep. So I had to call them, hey, did you guys read my book? So that's a common joke within my team. So I mean, I'm done. They give me this task, I'm done. You went through the process. They give you something, you have to give it back.
Oh yes, back
Yeah,
and
it's just
forth.
back and forth,
Right.
back and forth.
And you're reading something about your knowledge because my book is based on the same way my podcast is. It starts out with my origin, it goes
Yeah.
through up to 2020 when 2021, pardon me, when I entered 2020, 2021 when I introduced my podcast and stuff, but it's an evolution of my life, having those epiphanies, being honest with people. What did I do to change my life? How did I change my mindset? I'm a working project till the day I take my last breath. But reading all that and admitting it to myself that, wow, I am worthy. Oh my goodness, I didn't realize I changed that much. Because sometimes we don't reflect on ourselves and the work we put into ourselves, right? And then I have other people have read my book and I'll go, did you actually read it? Because they'll
Yeah.
ask me questions.
Yeah.
Because really, at the end of the day, I like how you put it. Did you guys actually read my book? Right? Right?
You know,
That's so funny.
so, then I looked around and there's no book on sleep comprehensive. There's a book on, the best-selling book is Why We Sleep. Great book. I read that as a prelude for this book. There's a book on insomnia. There's a book for children. So I want a comprehensive book for the whole family because if the child's not sleeping, the parents are not sleeping, and then the older adults gets neglected and they are walking around in the middle of the night, not sleeping, falling down and groggy. So I dedicated a chapter for them. And then I dedicated a chapter for mental health and sleep. It's so important. A chapter dedicated for sports. I even have a chapter for sleep and sexual health, and I have a chapter for women. So I compartmentalize all that. And in the end, I give this, I want readers to know why. See, when I see a client in my office, I have to ask them, why did they are not sleeping? Is it a medical problem? Is it a psychological problem? Is it a sleep disorder? Or you just don't sleep? So I go through that. See, if you have a sleep disorder like sleep apnea or restless legs or limb movement, you don't sleep well. Even if you have a rare condition like narcolepsy, you don't sleep well at night. So that's when, if you have heart problem, lung problem, if you have diabetes, you're not sleeping well. So I go through all that. If you have high, anxiety and stress, so within an hour of talking to with me, I'm able to see, because the lack of sleep is an end product, it's the tip of the iceberg of something at the bottom, especially in children. Children till 20, before they go to college or 18, they should be the sound sleeper. So my big message is, if children are not sleeping before they go off to college, then it's actually a cry for help. They don't express it's anxiety or depression. So very important that, and every decade we lose sleep. By the time we are like 50, it kind of dramatically goes down, and by the time you're 70, sleep is ultimately almost done because your brain shrinks and you don't secrete those chemicals. So I've given different chapters, and we change. Sleep is the best sleep is till you leave for college, and then after that, life happens to us, responsibilities, children, and your job, and then menopause happens. Your estrogen, especially, that's hard on women. When they lose their estrogen, you gain weight, you have sleep apnea. Men, they lost in testosterone. So all those things I discuss. So when you have a sleep problem, it's something else is underlying. So that's my big message. And this book, as a physician working in the ICU and other specialties, I want people to know why you're not sleeping. So the easy answer will be to take a pill, but you have to go through the process. So that's my goal. And also, when I wrote the children for teenagers, it comes from a personal spot. I see a lot of kids, parents come and tell me, "Hey, Dr. John, I need to bring my son or daughter. They're not sleeping well." I never see them. I don't want to call them. One kid who didn't sleep and then went to college and then ended it all. So then I felt so bad. Then I called all the other parents to bring their children, and then they all had anxiety or depression. So I feel like I have to, give this message to your listeners and everybody else. If your child is not sleeping, please look into it. The children will never tell you, "I have stress." You have to work through it. Is it athletic stress? Is it peer pressure stress? Is it academic stress? Pull them back, help them to sleep. That's the most important thing you'll ever do to change their life. So that's a huge point. I'm a huge fan of children's sleep. Since
Advocate, yeah.
Yes, since
Yeah.
my mom taught me how to sleep, I'm a huge fan of women's sleep. And of course, being a man, men don't care a lot for themselves. So I put, extra impetus on men's health. So that's my passion. I fragmented everything, a comprehensive message for the whole family.
And that's great. You're literally sharing the evolution of what we're going through in our lives from young age to older age. I know young kids with sleep get good, made good sleep, and then all of a sudden they hit something called the age of majority, and they're introduced to something called alcohol, and
Yes.
they go off to college and university, and they develop patterns of crap sleep, and
Yes.
statistically 65 to 70% of people that come out of university or college in the US and Canada are alcoholics already.
Yes.
They're already addicted to alcohol. they're not sleeping properly, and then that evolution goes into their relationships with both significant others, to work, to whatever the case that they're in their lives. So I appreciate you sharing that evolution. And those listening or watching, I think this book will be a game changer, right? I haven't read it, so I can't say I know, but I believe in the confident responses of Dr. John, that this is a tool that could definitely change your lives. I know myself, I can only talk from personal, and then obviously from my clients and family. Sleep is either good, or can be, lack of sleep is evil, because it causes so many mental and emotional problems within us. One of the things I would like to know, though, and it just popped into my mindset, what about families that are broken up? And here's why I say that. I was a divorced man. My kids at one point in time went back and forth initially until I got full custody of them. There was joint custody to go back and forth. I was very stringent about sleep. My ex was not. Right. So do you have any solutions or suggestions for people that are listening? Because there's more split families than people realize, where kids, like my kids, used to call themselves suitcase kids, where they're going from one house one week, one house another week, different disciplinary, different sleep patterns, different nutrition. Is there anything that a person can do, or is it just going to have to wait until some such day that the kids get older that we can help them with their sleep issues?
So I have a chapter for children too. So what happens with children, I call it a 50-50 problem, right? The children will always, I'm talking about smaller children, they are pushing the envelope not to go to sleep, right? They always want to play. And so when you have two parents, one's going to be weak. It happened in my own life with my son. I was not a sleep specialist or training then. It was a ritual. It was complicated to put him to bed. But when the day I entered fellowship, I learned about it, came back within a week. Me and my wife took together, had the plan. And of course, when you introduce a plan to a child, the child ups the ante and becomes even more crying. But we stuck to it. After a week, went to bed like that. So to answer the question, when there are two, paternal or parental influences, it's going to be a challenge on that child. And at least you might disagree with your ex or whatever. I think both should agree on one thing, that the sleeping routine has to be. It's very complex problem, like you mentioned, but it's even with married couple, that this one parent is going to be weak, and the child will know manipulate that child about when to close to bedtime. That's hard in a normal relationship. In children who have with two sets of parents or broken families, it's going to be even harder. It's a tough challenge.
Yeah, I seen a massive difference when I got full custody of my kids, because now 7 days a week, right?
Yeah.
365 days a year, there
Yeah.
was consistency. They had to go to bed at a specific time. Mealtime was a specific time. Homework was at a specific time. Everything was structured and obviously flexible enough where circumstances required it. But I think even as adults, we as adults may get it down pat that we have a structure for our children, and we forget to promise ourselves that we're going to live a certain structure. And number one of that structure, and I will, die on a hill telling people this, because I honestly do believe this, that the number one thing in our life is proper sleep. And until the world figures that out, we're going to be always having people in power making poor decisions, because I guarantee a lot of them aren't sleeping properly or eating properly or taking care of themselves. People within our own life structures. I think the lack of sleep causes a de-evolution of our society on such a massive scale. Like you said, there's a sleep debt issue, right? The society's walking around in sleep debt. It's gotten worse, from the TV
Absolutely.
shows, the movies, to the energy drinks, which I think are vile and ought to be outlawed, right? For what they do to people. It's not just the caffeine, it's all the other garbage that are in them. It's just the addiction levels of wanting to sleep and not sleep and stay awake because I didn't sleep well last night, so I have to have two energy drinks today,
Right.
right?
Instead of addressing the problem, we are quick fix. So
Masking,
yes,
yes.
masking it, and then it, like you say, all the other products, last longer. So even in my own daughter's life, she was going preparing for, her graduate studies application, and she said she couldn't sleep. I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "Oh, I had this, energy drink or caffeine drink 8 p.m. because I needed the energy to focus on my application. She had to do it after college, yeah, after work, and then I said, "Hey, you can't do that." And just by cutting that off, the caffeine acts in people till, it can act for 6 hours, but in vulnerable people, it can act even way longer, up to 12 hours. So, you touched something about kids' sleep getting worse in college. So, what happened in the past, the pre-pandemic, kids went to college, spoiled their sleep, but then when they came back, there was this cutoff. Everybody worked to the office. They had to show up at the office at 8 o'clock. So they changed the habit at when they came out of college because they have to take a new job. After the pandemic, what happened is people are working from home, so that behavior is perpetuated by waking up later. So society is actually moved the clock forward. People, what is 6 a.m. now is 8 a.m. What was 8 a.m. is now 10 p.m. Everybody's clock is shifted, especially since you're working from home. So the pandemic created something called chronosomnia, the fear of sleeping because of coronavirus. The anxiety level goes up. You're like, maybe I have corona, the worry level. So there's a terminology, insomnia, and now there's chronosomnia. And then I'm discovering we also have something called delayed sleep phase after the pandemic because of working from home. You wake up later, go to bed later because you're changing time. That's I'm observing that firsthand in children coming out of college to go to start the job after the pandemic.
So you talked more than once now about a specific time frame of sleep.
Mhm.
So, as society will say, well, this is the way I am. I'm a night owl. Some people say they're a morning person. So is there a specific proven time that's best for us to go to sleep like you're talking? So from 10 p.m. to 6 p.m. Or can a person have that still same 7 hours of sleep and go to bed at 11 and get up at 7 as opposed to 10 to 6?
Yeah, great question. See, there's something called chronotypes. So there are some set of people who are night owls. So now some of the people in the dating agency, they actually ask your sleep type. Do you go to bed late, wake up late, or do you go to bed early? Because if you and your future mate are not in the same zone, you can have a lot of sleep problems, right? So they're like ships passing in the ocean because your time is not good. So for general, all of us, 10 to 6 is great, but for those night owls and the morning types, whatever is convenient is what it works. But it's okay as long as you have 7 hours to answer the question, 7 to 8 hours. That's good.
Okay. Yeah. And you mentioned about relationships types. I know my ex, she was a early morning riser, go to
Mhm.
bed, right? Early,
Early.
whereas I've been a night owl my whole
Yeah.
life, right?
Yeah.
And even my son, my youngest of the five, he literally, since he was a kid, he can't make it past 10 o'clock. And if he's still
Mhm.
awake at 10 o'clock, because there's company or whatever over, he's yawning and he's totally tuned out. He's just like, his
Ah,
body's like, what are you doing? You should be sleeping right now. And he's
yeah.
still that way. He just turned 25 on this past Friday, and he's still that way. By
That's
nine
great.
thirty,
Keep
10
it that.
o'clock at night. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
encourage it. I said, okay, that's fine. I'm sorry. He'll say to a group of people, if families here, like at Christmas, because my kids live all over the place, he'll come for Christmas and he'll say to them, sorry, guys, I just can't stay awake. I'm
Yeah.
not hearing what you're saying anyway. So he's honest with them and he's honest with himself and he goes off to bed, right?
Yeah.
And pretty proud of him. He's the only probably one of my kids that doesn't have sleep challenges. He does go through periods where he drinks an energy drink because he's out with friends or he does something that's silly, and he'll admit to me the next day, I did this. How did you sleep? I slept terrible. What did you do? Well, I did
Yeah.
this and that. Well, good for you for admitting it. You're not going to do that again tonight, are you? No way. All right.
Excellent.
So, 1 out of 5, that's not bad. 20%.
So he might have to marry somebody in the same chronotype, the sleeping pattern.
Oh
So,
yeah, absolutely. So you talked about the differences with women, and you talked about children, like women with going through menopause and stuff, and children and some of this stuff. Can you talk a little bit more about what are men's problem when it comes to sleep? Is it because we're that alpha male and we want to prove ourselves, or why do men have so many sleep problems from very young age up to, like you said, 70s, 80s?
no, actually, the sleep problems are more in women.
Is it? Oh,
Oh, yeah.
really?
Very
Okay.
few, two-thirds of all my clients who come and say they can't sleep are women. But men have this condition called sleep apnea because men snore more. You know why men snore more is because our voice larynx is bigger. The air goes through the trachea or the windpipe and then goes to the larynx, which is bigger, so it gets amplified. So the snoring is more intense in men. So men get diagnosed with sleep apnea much earlier. So men have more sleep apnea, and many reasons. The common one is the weight gain, and the second one is the position of your jaw. Women are protected by estrogen because the back of the throat is held good. Estrogen keeps everything tight. So when women lose the estrogen, things begin to sag, and the back of the throat also sags and closes it. So women have more sleep apnea around menopause. So in general, sleep apnea is more common in men, and insomnia, difficulty to initiate or maintain sleep, is more common in women.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that.
Yep.
Those listening or watching, I see that with out of my five kids, I have four of them that are daughters, right? And the sleep challenges that they have, um, it is real. So you're right when I think about it. The men that I know and the women I know, what you said is concrete when I actually look at the big picture of the people that are in and around surrounding my life. So just to touch on it one more time, your book called Nobody's Sleeping came out March of this year.
Yes.
Um, Anything else you want to share about it? You talked about your 7 steps, and anything else you'd like to share with the listeners or people watching before we continue on and close up the podcast?
Yes, I intended this book to, help the whole family. So because one person's not sleeping, it affects the chain of events. So when it released, it was actually the number one bestseller in the sleep world. So it's taken off. It's continuing to gain traction. I was looking at all the stuff this morning, where it's been sold all over the world. I'm excited for the message. It's beginning to spread. So I'm excited, and I think your viewers will also understand and hopefully support. And I also have this online website called www.sleepfixacademy.com, where you have access to the Sleep Now course. Whatever I said, it's a 6 weeks course. It's an interactive download. It'll be homework for you to do, and I have my sleep assessment, sleep quiz, and some of the recorded podcasts, and a whole slew of information on my website. Even if you can buy a signed copy from me, if you so prefer, from my website. So all those I offer. So, but my bigger mission is everybody is free, is within us. You don't need to go to the gym. You don't need to buy expensive stuff. It is one state where we are all equal. You may be, have all the differences. That one stage that unites all of us is sleep, and hence I call it the superpower. I want everybody to discover that. And thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. I like that. Sleep is a superpower. Being able to sleep properly. For me, another superpower is being tenacious. And if you're a tenacious person and you can understand how to use tenacity to drive your proper sleep, now you're practicing two superpowers.
Yes.
Right. So I
Yes.
love that. So in regards to what you mentioned about Sleep Fix Academy, I'll make sure people new to the show go to giveaheck.com, click on podcast at the top of the website. You'll see a picture of Bejoy, and below there will be abbreviated show notes where you'll actually see links to his social media, to his website, as well as a breakdown where you can find it'll segment and show you the times of where specific things were talked about within the podcast so that you can, maybe there's just an area you want to listen to, or you want to maybe you've listened to it, want to listen to it again. Just try to make it so that we can prioritize the amount of time that you put into, bettering your sleep. And if it means that you can listen to this segment because you were looking for this and you know where to go in the podcast, that's why I made sure that's put in there for you. So the last thing I want to ask you, and we're going to wrap it up. If you had to give our listeners one last closing message, what would you tell them in regards to giving a heck and never giving up?
Yes. Give a heck to your sleep so you can be better at everything. Sleep well and be well, and let's go sleepy.
Oh, awesome. I'm going to have a nap. That's one thing I've introduced into my life a long time ago. Some days it's not possible, but I personally, I love napping. When we're a kid and we're even younger adults, we fight against that, having that nap. But at my age, you know what? Give me a 20-minute, a 30-minute power nap, whatever you want to call it. I'll take it. Is there any specific, I guess one last question would be, is there a specific sweet spot for having a nap?
So naps is great. My mom taught me to nap. So there was a recent journal that says in British Medical Journal, your brain volume increases when you nap. But see, we have a lull point around 2 to 3 in the afternoon. That's a perfect time to take a 20 or 30-minute nap. So to rejuvenate, that's called the power nap. But if you're sleeping 2, 3 hours, that's not a nap. You have a sleep debt. You see the difference? A little bit 20, 30-minute nap is great. That's your natural circadian rhythm. You're following the laws of all over the world. We counteract by tea time or siesta, but here we push. I take a nap when I have time. I do take a nap. I encourage naps for everybody. But the clue is, if you're sleeping more than 30 minutes or more than 45 an hour, you have a sleep debt. You need to look into that.
Yeah, and that makes so much sense. I know myself, having a good nap is great. If I'm sleeping too, if I wake up from my nap and I feel like I should just go up to my room and climb into bed, I reflect on the night before, or if maybe I didn't when I got up in the morning, because I try to do that gratefulness reflection before I get out of bed. But yeah, so those listening and watching, napping's good. Don't be so hard on yourself. Just
Mm.
nap.
Yes. You can say Dr. John said so.
I will. That I can't wait to have conversations with one of my daughters I'm going to see this afternoon. I'm going to talk to her about it and say, Dr. John said, right? So sometimes maybe that'll be the catalyst to help.
Yes.
Any last words before I wrap the show up?
Yeah, that's it. It's easy. It's not very hard. But discover that within yourself, and then you will put it into practice. Do all the stuff I said, and within it's hard. The 2 weeks are going to be hard, but the end of by a month, you are going to be like a champion. It's well worth when you're changing the direction of your ship and your whole life, and to be the best version of yourself.
Oh, I love that. Being the best version of yourself. I say that to people all the time. And
Yes.
my books, Give a Heck: How to Live Life on Purpose and Not by Accident. And
Yes.
with people like myself, utilizing people like you, bringing on experts for other people to elevate their lives. We all have a say in our lives, and you and I have decided to make sure that seeds of goodness that are inside of us doesn't die with us, with our books, and with you being on podcasts, me having a podcast, being a guest myself. We ensure that maybe one more person today is going to give a heck about their lives and live purposefully.
Awesome.
So thanks so much for being on Give a Heck. Bijoy, I appreciate your time and sharing some of your experiences so that others too can learn it is never too late to give a heck.
Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.